This is the Black Creative Handbook with your host, Kassandra Lauren Gordon, and I am here with
Chris Williams.
Great Chris. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I have a business in e-commerce, and I also coach entrepreneurs. I've been doing that now for the last 7.5 years of my life, and it has been one of the most truly rewarding things. I have my wife, Dr. Tamara Williams, and I live here in the East Coast of the United States. Got two boys in high school, which is really weird to say out loud, but it is true. Um, and Joshua and Josiah. And so, man, I'm just super excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I love your, like what you said, your introduction. You brought your whole family in. And sometimes when I don't do this podcast, I think I've done X amount. No one talks about their family. So it just reveals a lot about you. So thank you for doing that. Do you notice that you talk about your family?
Yes, I do that, not just intentionally, but it's because there's a strong connection between where I am today and my wife. I always tell people, and when they meet my wife, they realize why. Like, I married up. Um, she is actually super critical to my journey, especially over the last 5 years of my life. So, um, and being a father is a journey. I have three relationships in my house: my wife, my youngest, and my oldest. And then we have the relationship together, right? So learning to manage those has taught me a lot about business life. And I'm an observer by nature, so I learn a lot of things by actually like paying people attention. So I get a lot of stuff from my family.
That's so heartwarming to hear. So thank you. Maybe this is a normal thing, but maybe in the UK we don't always talk about our family in the best. Well, for me, in the best light. And you say you're in America. What part of America? Let me see if I get my geography right. What part?
So I'm on the East Coast. There's a little spot called North Carolina. That is where I am.
Ah, okay. I've been kind of through North Carolina. So how do I
Yeah.
say this quickly? From New York, going all the way
Yep.
to Florida, driving.
Yeah,
I had to
absolutely.
go
Yep. You
through it.
drove all the way through it if you drove down or you flew.
Mhm.
That's right. You flew over it. Yep.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I've been through it. And I'm a big wrestling, this is just off topic. I'm a big WWE wrestling fan.
Okay.
So there's some really good wrestlers in North Carolina. That's how I know American geography through wrestling, because usually when they come out and do their, when they go out in the ring, they say they
Yep.
reside or they're from a certain place. So one
That's
like
right.
good wrestlers, which I think I know, called the Hardy Boys, telling my age, in the 90s or late 90s, they're from North Carolina. So that's my American trivia.
Hey, I grew up with Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, so don't worry.
Ah,
It's all good.
R.I.P. Ultimate Warrior, R.I.P. And Hogan is still doing his thing. So yeah, yeah. So thank you for that. So we're going to do some quick fire questions just to get to know you more. Even though I feel like I know you a lot already, talking about your family and how you've come and your mindset at the moment. So some quick fire questions. Are you an Apple person or are you an Android?
Apple all day.
Why?
So my last uh product, I'll never forget this, was a Sony Vaio. I don't know if you guys might remember that. Comp USA was a huge computer store back in the day. And I remember coming out of college and I got a Sony Vaio laptop. It was this laptop that had like all the Microsoft pieces and everything else. And I remember when the iPhone came out, I didn't get the first one. I didn't get the second one. I didn't get the third one. It was like the fourth one, but I didn't get introduced to the phone. I had the iPod. And I rocked that iPod until it broke. And then because I was never the guy that would like upgrade every 6 months when the new thing came out. I kept it for a while, and then I went from, you might remember this, I had a BlackBerry device. I don't know if people
Little
remember those days.
Blackberry. Mm-hmm.
I had a BlackBerry. I felt so cool because I could pull up my little antenna and all. Oh yeah, I thought I was the man. Well, when BlackBerry ended, I was in my corporate career, and I'll never forget. They were like, "Hey, we're gonna now give you an iPhone," and I was like, "Okay." That totally changed the game for everything. So it was like after that moment, I bought like literally everything in my house is Apple. Everything. My sons don't care really too much. I mean, they have iPhones, but like they use Google devices and all that other stuff. But I'm iPhone all day.
It's true. Once you're an Apple person, you're Apple for life. I do like Apple, but I just got to say, hopefully one day putting it in existence, Apple will sponsor one of my podcasts or one of my products. I'm going to put
Let's
that
do
in
it.
existence. But I don't think I've got that Apple money yet to do my PC. I'm waiting. Once I make that, I'll be a fully committed Apple person. Thank you very much for that. Do you like cereal or toast?
It would have to be toast at this point, and I hate saying that out loud because I grew up eating cereal all the time. My favorite was Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and to be fair, but it's just because I haven't eaten cereal in about 6 years. So that's the only reason why I would have to say toast.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a kind of British question. Do you like tea or coffee?
Oh, I'm a tea guy, actually. So I brought my kids to we went to Spain. We stopped in Barcelona, we stopped in Marseille, and then we stopped in Savona. We took a trip. This was 4.5 years ago. And I was super excited because I've always been a tea guy. Like I love tea. And so it was my kids' first real experience of like real tea time, right? The official. There's no other version around the world. It's the real official version there. And then I brought back some that were just like amazing. So I'm definitely a tea guy. I can drink tea all day long.
What type of tea? Let's see if we're on the same wavelength. What type of tea?
Okay. I'm a loose leaf person.
Okay.
Gotta brew it.
Brew it.
It's something different about it. I don't know. I like loose leaf. In fact, one of my favorites right now is this. There's an Asian version. I can't think of the brand right now, but it's a jasmine loose leaf tea that has hibiscus and there's another ingredient in it, and you don't need anything else added. Oh, it's hibiscus and cinnamon. You don't need anything else added. It's so good, very, very good. And I only drink my tea with honey. So
I'm on that life, honey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on that life. Okay, cool. Right, we now know. Okay, and I usually ask people this: what advice would you give to your 12-year-old self?
I think the advice that I would give to my 12-year-old self is, you're right in how you feel, but just be patient with the manifestation of it.
Could you explore that a little bit?
So I've always been a very optimistic person, like always. But that's because I think it was, to every negative, there's a positive, and to every positive, there's a negative, right? That's just the law of polarity. So I didn't grow up in the best of environments. I'm the youngest of 6 boys, no girls in the house. Mom worked 9 to 5, 6 to 11. So she was never really home just because she always had to work because we didn't even have enough to get by. So I had to learn very early from my older siblings what not to do because they were in everything. And it gave me that's the reason why I'm very observant today. Like I just observe a lot of things. But I was always optimistic that there had to be something other than the environment I was growing up in, right? It's kind of like, Peter Pan discovering Neverland. Like, this is cool, right? Well, my version of Neverland was actually getting out of the hood. Mm. And because the first time I actually ran into a different version of the world where there's a place, Atlanta, Georgia, which is like this melting pot of African-American people from all over the world. And that was the first time I'd ever seen somebody who looked like me who was actually wealthy. That was the first time I actually ran into somebody who moved to the States who looked like me who didn't speak English. That was like, so for me, that was like are you kidding me? Like there's diversity to who I am. Because most people grow up and live within about a 6 to 7 mile radius for their entire life. They never get outside of where they are, right? And I've always been that guy that is like, well, what is over there? Well, what's happening on that side, right? So, and then thankfully marrying my wife, who was a huge world traveler, it just helped me. Like, I knew I was right, right? I knew that there was good in people, that I could have a version of a family that wasn't as destructive. I knew it, but of course I didn't have it, right? So that's the only reason why I say that's what I would tell my 12-year-old self.
No, I do appreciate that. You have to, because sometimes, I don't know, depending on what household you live in or something like that. Sometimes I remember when I was 12, it's like not always allowed to feel, because it's I think 12 is an age where you're coming to be an adult. You're going into puberty, and you think you know what you're doing, and you're experiencing new things, and you have a lot of adults telling you what to do. So to have that inner voice to know like things can be okay, and to look at the bright sides, and I really do appreciate that. I really appreciate what you're saying. And
yeah, I think most parents, first of all, if we're all honest as parents, we're learning on the job, and that's hard to admit. But I think, unfortunately, for many parents, we teach our children to suppress as opposed to express. And that's why we end up with so many failed relationships. My personal belief. I don't,
No, I'm just writing this down. Suppress. I love the rhyme to it. Suppress and express. Yeah, I feel a lot of people on this platform who listen to this can really relate to what you're saying. I'm not a parent, but I guess it's such a hard job. It's such a hard job to do. So I appreciate all that honesty. I really, really do.
I think the reason why it's hard, and this is what you might find out in the future, is that we are trying to make the imperfect parts of ourselves be perfect in the child that we're raising. And I find that to be very wrong. And I'm only 39, but I have figured out I'm built imperfect. So are they. But I can't make them be my version of perfection because of whatever hangups or whatever I didn't achieve or whatever I think, right? Like, I was having a conversation with a group of dads one day, and we were having this discussion, and it just occurred to me, like, I was born in the 80s. I was having a revelation that I am trying to make a 80s idea and foundation fit a 2010, my kids are 2004 and 5, so 10 years later, like 2010 world. I'm trying to put analog in digital. That's just not, and it's not fair to them, right? So, I think that's the issue.
Wow, I just had a lot of like aha moments and revelations for me. Yeah, and I feel like, I guess I'm just a couple of years younger than you, but it's just we bridged that gap, that millennial kind of gap from the analog. When I'm thinking of cassette, sure. I was chatting to my brother, like, you know what a cassette is? It's like, what? A cassette. And he's younger than me. I was like, a cassette, when we had to get the tape and you have to ring it round, and they don't know about that. Like digital, everything's digital. So I guess your children, everything's digital. Like, what's everything? That? What's Blockbuster? What is that? Okay, no, it's deep. I appreciate the deepness and the honesty and the authenticity. So going back to what you do is supporting. You have your e-commerce business, and you say that you support entrepreneurs. So can you just talk about a little bit about that? How do you do that?
Yeah. So I actually, man, this is my wife. So my wife has been an entrepreneur for the last 13 years. She owns a digital marketing firm. She actually left a very high-paying executive role. She worked for a home improvement company. She first, actually, interestingly enough, she lived in Seattle, Washington, which is the home of Microsoft. That's where she started her career, rose to the ranks there, and she got hired by a home improvement company known as Lowe's Home Improvement to be a corporate vice president. She got paid seriously well, and she left that job. Now, part of the reason some people will go, well, why would you leave a job like that to go start your own? Um, African American women have a very difficult time being seen in executive ranks, respected in executive ranks, and I would even take it a step further and say that the biases and um, the ways in which um, baby boomer men view women a lot of times in the corporate space is just not conducive to the right culture, right? So she left, and most of them thought that she just wouldn't succeed. They figured, well, and of course, unfortunately, there was a lot of black people like, what are you doing? Well, not only did she succeed, she did very well and still does very well. And there came a point where I was working in my corporate job, and my wife has never pushed me into entrepreneurship, but there was an opportunity through one of my personal challenges. So 2016, I almost died from an asthma attack in my sleep.
Sorry to
That's
hear.
kind of where the journey started.
How did you know?
And
Sorry, in your sleep. How did you know? Sorry, I just heard
I
that.
woke up thankfully. I was taking a nap. And
Okay.
so growing up, I've always dealt with asthma. I've had asthma all of my life, thought it would just be a part of my life. And my wife had gone to church when we came, we gone to church. We came home and she's like, hey, I'm gonna go run some errands. I'm gonna take the kids. She took the kids with her to go run errands. I'm cleaning the house. And I'm just cleaning, doing my thing. And I'm like, I'm gonna take a nap. And by the time they come home, we'll do dinner and all of that. I woke up, nebulizer didn't work, inhaler didn't work, and I could feel myself getting like really down. Thankfully, I did the smart, dumb thing. I drove myself to the hospital and almost died. That's a whole nother conversation. But
Well, you're
long
here.
story
You're here.
yeah.
You're here.
Long story short, when I got out of the hospital, a neighbor of ours said, hey, have you guys ever thought about the cleaning products that you're using in your home today?
Mm.
And I was like, no, like everybody just cleans, what we use. So in the UK, you all have it differently and in the best way, meaning the standards for chemicals and cleaning and everything else is a whole lot better than here in the United States. The United States is terrible when it comes to those things. So we use a lot of astringent cleaners, harsh chemicals, all of that stuff. And a lot of it dates back to World War II. So there's a history of why we got so many chemicals here, chemical warfare. But we have things like bleach. We have things that are like you would never in a million years like want your children around, but unfortunately we use it everywhere here. The chemicals have been traced back to asthma, allergies, ADD, ADHD, nervous disorders, birth defects, infertility in women. And here we have, this is the thing I try to get people to understand. We have the best hospitals, the best medicine, but we're the sickest country on the planet. And that's the problem, right? Like, it's like stop and think about that for a second. Like if you ever had cancer or you ever had some situation, especially in the United States, you're happy to be able to go to a St. Jude's hospital or like you're happy to go there because at least man, they're going to give me the best care, right? But we're the sickest country on the planet. That shouldn't be. So I built my business on health and wellness, and I educate families all around the country and around the world about the dangers of toxic chemicals and how to get rid of it. Now, the cool part is I lost 65 pounds by paying attention and doing some major changes, and I didn't lose it the quick way that is dangerous. I actually did it the natural hard way. Got rid of my asthma triggers down to 0, got rid of my son's eczema problems in no time. And then it ended up building us a really great partnership where we were able to not only provide the education, but put people in tap with the resources that they need. And we actually service the UK. So we service about 19 countries around the world from right here in the United States. So it's pretty cool. That's the e-commerce side. The entrepreneurship journey started because I realized I can help people not only learn what we do, but then help them in building their own business. So I was building that while I was working my corporate job. My first year, I made over $100,000. So I was like, and I had never seen that kind of money before. And I was like, wait a second. So how do we do this? Now, this is where my wife enters. Because now my wife is like, oh, he's getting it now. Thank you. Thank God. So she knows I have a corporate learning and development background. I teach executives and coach executives around the country. So she's like, maybe you can actually take what you know just from a coaching standpoint and teach other people. And I was like, And I was like, well, what do I do? It just so happened that about 4.5 years ago, I'm headed to California for an event that I got to do. And I get a phone call from my wife and she's like, hey, I got it. I think you should really start helping people build a side business. And I was like, okay, I'll think about it. Get done with my training in California. I'm flying back home. Now, between California and getting to North Carolina is about a 5.5 hour flight. So I had time, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm really like going, what did she just say to me? Okay. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I already got my podcast. I'm already doing stuff on YouTube. I'm already like, okay, maybe there's something to this. So then we get home and she calls a good friend of hers and was like, hey, I want you to talk to my husband. Here's something that we're doing. Let's see if this might interest you. Let's see if we can help you out. Duplicated my success in a year.
Wow.
Then we just started teaching it around the country and it's gone gangbusters. And so now I help, any corporate professional who I like to call are successfully discontent. There are people right now who are probably listening to your show who they're in their career. It's just that they don't know what's next. And what I always tell people is they're just unfulfilled. That's all. Unfulfilled is not a bad thing to feel. It just means I'm not sure what to do, especially after, what has happened recently around the world and different things. Like people are searching, right? And most corporations have cut their budgets by a lot. And typically most corporations will cut training budgets because it's an expense. It doesn't add revenue. So if you are in your corporate career, your mid-tier, your upper echelon of your career, your company cannot pay you enough to learn the things that would make you fulfilled. They just can't. That there's no version of that, right? So what I realized was my career excelled for the most unconventional reasons because I actually built a successful side business. So I teach that now to people who are successfully discontent in their jobs, that there's so much that you could become at your career if you understood the power of building a side business. Most people don't understand the power of it and the things that you can learn. And that's what I teach in my challenges.
I'm trying to distill it because I'm hearing all the success and I'm in my 9-to-5 grinding. My boss is doing my head in. I've got kids. I've got a mortgage.
Right.
How do I have this capacity to still have the energy to level myself and still do the 9-to-5 and still do the side business and get to wherever I can leave? So that's what I'm thinking, because people make it sound so easy and nothing in life is easy. So can you just do some breakdown? Because I hear the end result, but what was the process?
Yeah. So part of that is what I teach in my challenge.
Yes, sorry, I'm not trying to give the whole thing for free. But
yeah,
I'm just
and part of it is a part of our coaching too. So we have a 12-week boot camp and we got a mastermind that we do as well. And that's the reason why I built the 5-day challenge, because that's what people are wondering. Like, well, how do I even get there? And here's the thing that I try to get people to understand. The difference between where you are today and what you want is not the end result. It's just taking the next step. So when I wanted to lose weight, I didn't set out to lose 65 pounds. I actually only set out to lose 20. And I took an unconventional route. I killed our gym membership because we weren't going. That was just a fact. Most people aren't going. And I hired a trainer. See, most people don't understand the value in having a coach, because if you have a good coach in your life, no matter what like thing you're trying to do, right? For me, it was at that time I was losing weight, so I needed a trainer who was really going to work with me. If you have a good coach in your life, the best thing they're going to ever do is frustrate your comfortability right now. They're going to force you to think. See, success is a thinking man and woman's game. And the problem is, for many of us, we have too many areas in our lives that we're comfortable. So we want something in the future, right? But everywhere in our life, we're comfortable. So the issue turns into, if I'm not willing to think my way through, then I can't take the next step on what I need to do. I can want all I want all day long. You can want to get out of your job. You can want more money. You can want more revenue. And you might have a side hustle right now. I teach people how to turn it into a side business, because a side hustle is only a hobby. And when it gets hard, we walk away. It's because we're too comfortable in our lives. So part of the issue is accepting the fact that I'm gonna have to do the hard thing. You know what the hard thing is? I'm gonna have to schedule my time and build a little word that's a D word that a lot of people run away from, and it's called discipline.
Ooh, okay.
There are so many people who have great successful side businesses, but you know how? It's because they have discipline. They don't spend time on Netflix and chill. They have prioritized their days. And I got a cool tip. Let me give you this tip real quick at work. Mm-hmm. This is a cool work tip. So if you're at work right now and you spend all your time in meetings, right? You ever had one of those days where it's like the whole day is all meetings, and then somebody's sending you an email and they're like, hey, did you get that thing delivered? And you're like, I haven't had time. I've literally been in meetings all day, right? Here's one of the things you got to do. You've got to understand that the value that you have to execute is time. If you're sitting in a meeting, you're not executing. Here's the first thing you need to do. Take a look at your schedule and ask yourself this first question. How many of these meetings do I actually talk in? How many of these meetings are just FYI, right? Just for my information. And of those meetings, is there something that I'm actually responsible for doing because I sit and listen? I will tell you, I do this with executives all the time. A third of their meetings are absolutely of no value. So you know what you can start doing? Here's the second tip. Take all of those meetings and ask a question to the owner of that meeting. What is the intended outcome of this exact meeting right now? It might be reoccurring, doesn't matter. What is the intended outcome? If they send you back an email and the intended outcome is not something that you add value to, decline. Our problem is we have a problem saying no. That's the issue. We think we got to say yes to everything that we're being thrown, and most of it comes down to, because if we can just be honest, most people are surviving to keep their jobs. They're just we're spending week after week hoping that nobody fires us, and just want to convince people to not. But it's because we haven't stepped up to really truly understand our value. So learn how to look at your calendar and say, no, I don't add anything to that. I can get the updates later. Can you make sure that you provide agenda notes, provide outputs? But to just do as I'm told without ever questioning, that's where we run into trouble. And that's a work culture thing. That's not a black thing or a white. That's a work culture thing. Because you have a job, you should be grateful. That's what's running in the back of people's minds, right? So when I put something on your calendar, you should just accept, no, I need to be more efficient with my time.
We all have 24 hours in a day. Beyonce has 24 hours a day. Oprah, anybody, Will Smith, I don't know any other entertainer, celebrity. We've got 24 hours in a day.
That's it.
So going towards, you said taking that next step, you talked about discipline. I'm really interested to hear about the mindset for creatives, because it just seems like, I think off air. I was talking about,
Mm-hmm.
I have degrees that I don't use. I was kind of like put into this kind of immigrant kind of complex where your mom and dad say you got to be a lawyer, doctor, these type of like professions, which you probably
Sure.
didn't have too much interest or degrees you have interest in. You do it. You try to do the right thing. You're in it. You are, what's that word? Something content or discontent, you say?
Successfully discontent.
Yeah. And you're just like, how do I get out of that mindset? Like, I know that this is not the right path, but I got to make the move. So what would you say to creatives about shifting their mindset of just moving closer to their goals?
Yeah, I think creatives have a interesting dynamic, a problem that you're gonna have to figure out and solve. Here's the problem. The problem is you want to spend your most opportune time being creative in your element, but you need to make money. This is the reason why I teach a lot of people how to build a successful side business. You have to find something. This is the hard part for a creative. You have to find something that can generate you income. So even if all it did, could you imagine as a creative, if you just had something running in the background that just paid your household bills every month? Do you realize the financial stress that would decrease dramatically by just doing that, right? So this is the hard part for creatives. You have to put something in place that's going to generate enough revenue to cover your life, right? But also as the creative, you have to understand business. You can't just want to do, it's a hard reality and pill to swallow, but you can't just want to do your thing. You got to get paid because you got to earn money doing that, right? So whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's photography, right? No matter what it is, right? You've gotta understand that I gotta understand the business side of what I do creatively, right? Here's the other part that's important for creatives. You have to understand the power of a team. Because if you could spend more time understanding team dynamics and why you as a creative need a team, like you might need to go find somebody who's really good at the business side of that stuff. If you're an artist, you might need to go find a photographer instead of trying to be all in all. Right? Like, because you want to spend the majority of your time doing the most optimal thing that you're really good at, right? That's what most creatives want to do. But you got to understand the power of a team. The third thing is you're going to have to really put some thought into where and how I get to my most creative self. What does that look like? There's a book called Think and Grow Rich. There's a passage of scripture that says, as a man thinketh, so is he. There's meditate on this word. It's a thinking man's game. It's a thinking woman's game. So you have to literally sit down as a creative and write out a plan. Even if you don't have all the pieces to that plan, you gotta really, like, you gotta sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and go, okay, what are the ways of things that I can do right now to create revenue? All right. What is that gonna mean that I need? Okay. How do I put together a team? Okay. Based on my current schedule right now, where are the opportune times that I can actually work on my particular craft? And you're gonna have, that's the hard reality of being a creative. But here's the cool part. If you understood just how many different ways you could earn money, it will blow your mind. There's a gentleman who's a music director at a middle school. So we have like lower school, middle school, and high school right here. He has one of the most successful YouTube channels that I have ever seen somebody in this space. Here's the funny part. His YouTube channel has nothing to do with him teaching at the middle school. He started the middle school because he liked talking about tech and the things that he did and what he was into. And it took about 4 years. And all of a sudden it just took off. Now he's being interviewed all over the place. People want to be on his show. He's getting products sent to him, all types of things. But you know what his actual real love is? Drums. He plays music for a band. What he figured out was, I'm really good on camera. I'm really good at this. Let me turn it into something. I know another school teacher who she has a huge following. And you know what she did to turn her real job into a side business? She's bilingual as an African American. She spent 4 years over in was it Portugal? I can't remember where, but she like immersed herself in Spanish. She did a whole immersion thing somewhere. I think it might have been Portugal. But here's the cool part. This is what she did. When she got home, she went back to her elementary school. Do you know now she has one of the top bilingual online courses for somebody to learn Spanish, French, and she still teaches her class. It's not easy for a creative, but you're going to have to figure out, how do I create micro content of things that I can go out and sell, right? So if you're a painter, maybe you sell a course on understanding color science, understanding how to put things together. If you're a photographer, maybe you put together a simple course that you could sell for $20 online of camera gear. Maybe you put together a how-to, right? But you gotta sit down and think, because if you don't have revenue covering your household bills, your creative abilities start to get depressed and you lose energy.
I hear you. I hear you. I've been there. I hear you. I hear you. I'm just taking it all in, because some people will say, well, all you have to do is just believe. And I'm just like, yeah, that's one part. But it's the doing as well. It's the thinking and the strategizing and doing. And I really do appreciate that.
And you know what's cool about what you just said? It's the repetitive doing. Do you know, as a creative, you will get bored with the mundane, but so do millionaires. You have to fall in love with the mundane.
How?
Becoming a millionaire is very boring.
What? No.
Oh, it's very boring.
Explain.
You know why? Because here's something that millionaires have figured out, and people who are running great businesses, here's what they figured out: systems. That's why. And all they're doing is improving the system. When you can figure out how to get somebody to pay for something one time, guess what you need to do? Figure out how to get a few more people to pay for it. And then figure out what happened that caused that person to buy. Again, as a creative, this is hard work, but that's the reason for doing it. Because if you can figure that out in today's world with all the technology, man, you could put something up and sell in no time, right? But you got to be willing. Some people want to just do what they love. You got to love the hard stuff.
Understood.
And that ain't easy. I'm not saying it's easy, because it sucks at times. Trust me, I know. But if I don't do the hard things, well, you know,
you're going to be in a very comfortable situation, and you're not going to progress, because it's just like, what's the point? So it's that uncomfortableness what encouraged that growth, isn't it?
Yep.
So, okay, I hear you. Off air, I was talking about similar thing for people who are people of color. You have this, I call it black or immigrant tax. And some people might say to you, might come up with excuses or might come up with explanations, say, well, you know, it's not just me. And, you know, I've got kids, I've got people back home I have to look forward to. I cannot just make jumps. I can't afford to do the side business. All my extra money goes somewhere else. Western Union, I don't know if you have that over there, or MoneyGram or whatever. How do you get around people's mindset around that?
Man, there are very difficult choices ahead on the road of success. I've even heard Oprah talk about some of the difficult decisions she's had to make throughout her career that in the moment did not make everybody happy. But she knew, if I don't make this decision right now, who knows what my future is going to be. Loyalty is basically what you're talking about. There's loyalty to people who've, done what they, could do to get you wherever you are, right? And so we feel a sense of groundedness with our family. We feel a sense of I owe, my parents, or my grandmother, or whoever, right, who put me in this position. Here's the thing that I will venture to say is just something to think about. Sometimes the best thing you could ever do for the people that you love is go all in.
I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean?
You might have to make the hard decision and say, hey, listen, I need to use this money to take care of the next thing to propel my career. Hey, normally I would come home around this time of year. Well, that same 6,000 pounds that it normally takes me to get home, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to use it to do X. Hey, normally I would, right, put whatever afterward, but this time I'm going to do this. My mother does not understand my world. Is she happy about where I am today? Absolutely, right? She'll tell anybody that. She has no clue. She doesn't get it. She don't understand why I do certain things. Why sometimes I even tell my own mother. Yes, I even tell my own mother no. Yep, I do that quite frequently. I say no. And it's not because I've arrived, or I think I'm better than, or I forgot where I came from. It's because I'm running a business. And there are times where I just can't do the things that are in someone else's head as an expectation. And so it's very difficult. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I am saying we got to start looking at, do we really want it? And sometimes the best way to say thank you to our elders is to sometimes say no to the things that are kind of stopping us from really going all in. There was a period of time where I think I spent about 2.5 years. I didn't talk to my mother often. Not intentionally. I was so immersed in making sure that I became a better man. B, I did all I could to grab a hold of the knowledge of these new circles that I was running in, where people that are making money that will make your head spin, like every day. And my thought was, if God let me get in front of these people, there's a reason. But I got to make the sacrifices that are necessary. There's been times where normally I would come home for the holidays. I didn't. There would be times where I said to my mother I would show up for this. I couldn't. Yes, I would come down to hang out with everybody. I can't. We got to be all right with that. It's not that your loyalty is misplaced to your family, but if you're going to take the next step in your own life, sometimes you might be finding yourself hustling backwards, and that's why you're frustrated.
Deep.
And you know it.
Oh,
like you know it. It's not like you don't know. It's just, it's hard to tell your family no. That's all. It's just hard, man. Like, they did for you. They made sure you got where you are, you know, whatever that version is, right? I'm not saying it's not easy. I am saying if you just think about what you really want, it's going to require, man, if you talk to some of the people who are successful, who've made certain decisions, if you ask them about some of their hardest decisions, I guarantee you most of them were around family. Guarantee it. Ask any NBA player. Heck, ask Kobe Bryant right now if he was here. Ask him about the sacrifices of not seeing his wife because he got to go train. Not watching his babies grow up because he's got to go to a game. Not being there mentally at home because his mind is on, right? Now, we say he's the greatest player ever, right? One of the greatest. Yeah, but comes at a cost. You ever read the book Good to Great?
Which one?
Good to Great. Jim Collins.
Who's that?
Okay. So there's a book called Good to Great.
Good to Great. Okay.
Basically, the premise is the enemy of great is good.
Ooh.
And I'm not going to tell you anymore. Just go read that book.
Okay, cool. That's for my reading list. I'm going to buy it.
Good to Great. And it's because life is good, right? Life is good. Got a job, right? Doing my little thing on the side. Yeah, okay. Well, that's the enemy of great. And to get to great, you're going to have to make some difficult choices. And I promise you, for the majority of Black and brown people, it's around family. Whatever that version means for you and your family dynamics, sometimes it's around family. I won't say sometimes, I would say more than half of Black and brown people, it's around family. And we're not always willing to make the certain choices. And then here's what happens. We get older and we walk around frustrated and we have a lot of what ifs in our head.
And generational curses, you pass that on to your children. Yep. And then there's a function in life.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just deep. I'm just really internalizing a lot what you say. And I think a lot of this audience who, you know, when you try to do the right thing by your family, you know, you have good hearts, but sometimes you have to, what's that saying? You got to put your oxygen mask on first before you can help others.
Yes. You gotta go take, you first is always my my mantra in my house. Even with my wife, right? Like, I always tell her, like, babe, you do so much for other people, your business and everything else. I tell her all the time, if you just feel like doing nothing right now, go do nothing. You want to go get a massage? Go buy. Everybody else will be fine. Because guess what they're going to be when you show up again? Right there. So don't, I always tell my wife that, like, you first. Go take care of you. And the reason why I do that is because we have these, like, we allow assumptions to become reality. They're assumptions. You assume you got to be everywhere that they say you have to be. No, you don't. You assume I have to do all of these things with my kids. No, you don't. You are training a child, not raising chickens.
I'm not a parent, but it sounds a bit funny to me. So what do you mean? What do you mean?
So as a parent, I am learning that there are so many things that we assume we're supposed to do when it comes to our children. I'm not saying don't be there and be present. You should be. I think that's a foundational thing. That's something my wife taught me with my boys. They don't want something. They don't want a physical object from me. They just want me to be present. And when she said that, that freed me up because I just thought, well, I'm supposed to do all this stuff. No, you're not. You're supposed to be present. Like, if I'm there, put your phone down. Present, right? But it is okay if I'm my child's worst enemy sometimes.
Boundaries.
It is okay for me to tell you no, and tell you no often. It is all right if what you want goes against what is necessary for me to take care of the things to feed you. It is okay if I am not coddling to your every need. It is better if I help you think. It's better if I help you learn how to problem solve. It is better if I teach you, if I ask you better questions, right? Instead of trying to solve all your problems, why don't I teach you how to think?
Okay,
Those are hard choices because we hate seeing our kids fail.
Sorry, I'm just going to hit on what you said about being very solution focused, because being a creative, I always thought, well, you know, and one of my things is being a jeweler. I used to think when I first started, I'm making pretty things, and it's not. It's not. I'm solving a problem. So someone's trying to get married and get an engagement ring. I'm solving the desire of this emotional manifestation and memories to this woman or guy. I'm selling an experience. I'm solving the problem of the guy who has no idea about the woman and hope it doesn't mess up his savings and embarrassment. I'm saving him from embarrassment and shame and awkwardness, and saving his coins to show a symbolism, an emotional symbolism of his love to his loved one. And that's a very heavy crown to bear sometimes, because you don't know that person. But it's about asking the right questions. It's about problem solving. And I thought, as an entrepreneur, like, no matter if it's creative or not, whatever you think creative is, you're solving a problem.
That is the key that every creative should be asking themselves. What problem am I solving? You know, you and I talked about this before the show. Like, that's the dope thing I like about most creatives. A musician is solving the problem, one, to themselves, but to the world, of communicating an emotion through music, through instrumentation, right? Meeting a deeper connection and allowing the brain to have some sort of rhythm, right? A photographer is solving the problem, to me at least, of paying attention. Because a photographer can take a picture of something and we're having to stop and stare at that. A great example is it's Black History Month at the time of this recording. So one of the coolest things is the pictures and the images that photographers have either taken at the time during slavery or different issues, or the ones that have been found now and they've been recreated through art of artists, you know, painters and everything else. What does it force you to do? It forces you to stop and take in exactly what's going on. See, we like to keep moving and run to the next thing. No. That's what I like about photography. I don't do it, but I like people who are that way because they force you to go, this is a real thing and you should pay attention to it. I don't care if it's just zooming in on the colors of a flower or trying to depict a moment in historical context. I think it's dope. But you're solving a problem of paying attention. You're solving the problem of highlighting things for people that make us think, right? You're solving a problem if you're doing like portrait photos. Well, people need photos. That's the problem you're solving, right? So you can't be just a creative and not think about what problem you're solving. You could do that, but you just got a hobby. And you can go do your hobby, but you won't get paid like a business, right?
I hear you. So as we're coming up to the end of this podcast, I think what you're saying from your e-commerce business and from what you're saying, how you coach people and help people with your products, you're really tackling all of these kind of, I don't know if I'm using my own words, like these like blockages which sometimes people have in their 9 to 5. Sometimes these, you know, I call it black tax or survivor's guilt type of things, which are little nuances which our white counterparts don't always have. And I think before we got on air, I wrote it down, something about when white people go to work, sometimes they have a purpose. I think I'm butchering it. Well, how did you say it? Or I can't remember.
Yeah, our white counterparts typically go to work with a purpose, and Black and brown people go to work with a responsibility, because we're not just going to work because we like the job or we're interested in it. We're going to work because, to your point earlier, I got family that I got to go send money to, and everybody's depending on me for this money every month. And I've got, you know, we have all types of socioeconomical issues that unfortunately, when we show up at work, it's not just me showing up at work. It's like 9 people behind me. right? And that's unfortunate. I'm not saying that doesn't happen to our Caucasian brothers and
No.
sisters. I am saying that more often than not, that's the reason why as Black and brown people, we tend to hold on to whatever job we get the way we do. Mobility between careers for Black people is not the same as it is for our white counterparts. It's just not. They can switch a career in, all right, cool, move on, do it. Unfortunately, we find ourselves stuck in one career. And even though we might switch buildings and companies, we're doing the same thing. Why? Because unfortunately, we just, we stick to sometimes what we're good at. We don't stick to learn and develop and grow, right? So that's the difficult part.
Okay, thank you very much for being real. And the last thing I ask people on the podcast is, what positive testimonial or what was the best kind of advice people said on your courses or some from your business?
That's actually an interesting question. I'm going to pull up something that a gentleman sent me just I think it was just yesterday. He said, great inspiring talk. I wish I had heard it years ago. Very impressed with what you have achieved and your blessings of others with the knowledge and insights. I thought that was just literally yesterday. Shout out to this guy, Dan. I have, throughout this journey of doing my podcast, of coaching and talking to people, I'm going to tell you the best thing that has ever helped me. It helped me find my voice and be all right with what I know and to realize there's real value in that. So when I get testimonials like that, the guy sent to me yesterday, it's just like, it just reminds me, like, keep going. Keep going.
So heartwarming to hear. Thank you for that. And obviously, we're going to put things in the show notes. So how can we find you for the people who are listening or who are seeing on this podcast? So how can we find you and connect with you?
Yeah. I don't know if this will air beforehand, but they're going to be going forward. I got something new that I decided to do. I'm taking, my understandings, my conversations, my principles, my tactics, and my strategies, and I am helping people get moving to building a real side business. Or you probably already have one, but it's just been a hustle. I'm gonna show you how to turn it into a business. And so I've built a 5-day challenge, 1 hour a day, where we're gonna actually get together and I'm gonna walk you through every single thing to help you take that next step and get to what you're ultimately after, which is, most of us want to just know that we're right. We want to know that we put that thing in place and this is what we should be doing. Well, I'm going to show you how to put those pieces together. So you can go to thesidebusinesschallenge.com. Pretty simple, right? thesidebusinesschallenge.com. You can register. I got a VIP experience where you get to actually ask me questions. And then I also have a general admission where you can also just come in, be able to attend the trainings. It's going to be a great time. It starts March the 7th through the 11th. And the cool part is this. I'm going to be doing these every single month. It is something that I have found is the best way to get out a lot of the stuff that I always have, that I'm like, I got to find a better way to get these things to people so that I can help more people. And I'm super excited about it. You can find me on Instagram. Really simple. The Christopher Williams. Somehow that happened to be available when I got on Instagram. So that was pretty cool. I'm also on LinkedIn. Same thing. The Christopher Williams. You can find me there. You can also go to my website, twac.live. twac.live. That's the world according to Chris. All of my content pieces there. You can also go there if you want to just register for the challenge. You'll see it as soon as you go in. And let me also say this. I want to say thank you to the work that you are doing right now. We're going to come back to this episode like 5 years from now. And, we'll do a reunion conversation, right? Because I like people taking what they know. You're like the perfect person or avatar of what I'm talking about. Like, take what you know and get rolling. And most people don't understand you learn in the experience. You don't learn by sitting back and hoping you figure it out before you start. That's not life. That's not a reality. You can watch all the YouTube videos you want to on riding a bike. You still don't know how to ride a bike until when you actually get on a bike, right? So I like this format. I've liked what I've heard from this show, and I just see big things coming from this. So I just want to say thank you for your time.
It's coming. It's coming. Like, no, seriously.
Yeah,
like, I believe in it that much. You're like not the first person said about this podcast. You know, we're growing, and it's just like, yeah, now, okay, look at stuff, but in a year or two, it's gonna blow, because I really do think there's something special about when you're in it, you know, and when you're in the process. And people say, trust the process, trust the process. This is what we're talking about. So thank you so much for saying that. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So this is the podcast, Black Creative Podcast. Please connect with Chris, what he's doing. You know, he walks the walk, he walks his truth, and super positive. And he has so much stuff about his family and his life. You know how to contact us, you know how to connect with us. All the details in the lovely show notes. So let's do that. So the Black Creative Podcast, Black Creative Handbook, sorry. And that's it. Thank you. Speak soon.